The world didn't stop. Markets opened. Flights took off. People went to work. But somewhere in the dark, a dock burned in silence. And far across the ocean, 2 lives ended beneath a sky that never saw the missile coming. There were no declarations of war. No air raid sirens. Just impact. This is how modern conflict begins. Not with grand announcements, but with incidents. Small, contained, and dangerously ambiguous. Let's start with the first incident. According to U.S. officials, an attack struck a dock facility in Venezuela. Not a battlefield. Not a military base. A dock. Satellite images grainy, distant, and unfeeling. Show scorched concrete and structural damage. Emergency crews moved fast, and then a blanket of silence. Venezuelan authorities swiftly rejected parts of the American claim. They called it exaggerated, a political maneuver, misinformation designed to but intelligence analysts aren't just listening to what is said. They are trained to analyze what is avoided, what isn't being talked about. Because docks are never just docks. They are the lifelines of a nation. Think about it. Ports are arteries. Through them flow the lifeblood of a country. Fuel for its cars, food for its people, steel for its construction, and sometimes weapons for its defense. Control the port, and you don't need to fire another shot. You can starve an economy, cripple an industry, and apply immense pressure without ever setting foot on sovereign soil. This is the logic of modern gray zone conflict. The attack, as described by U.S. sources, wasn't a massive, destructive bombardment. It was precise, limited, almost surgical. It wasn't about total destruction. It was a message. And in the silent, high-stakes language of geopolitics, messages are rarely meant for public consumption. They're coded signals, sent from one power to another. They're meant for someone specific. And someone, somewhere, was supposed to understand the implications without a single word being exchanged. The question is, what was the message, and who was the intended recipient? While the dock smoldered in Venezuela, missiles fell in the vast expanse of the Pacific. 2 people were killed. The reports came in fragments, like shards of glass from a shattered window, conflicting trajectories. Uncertain origins, delayed confirmations from regional authorities. There was no immediate, clear explanation. No one rushed to claim responsibility. No group emerged with a list of demands. There was just wreckage. And bodies, a tragic, violent event shrouded in mystery. The timing unsettled analysts around the world, not because it definitively proved anything, but because it didn't need to. Modern conflict thrives on ambiguity. It exploits the fog of uncertainty. An anonymous strike allows the perpetrator to achieve a military or political objective while maintaining plausible deniability. It forces the victim and the international community to ask questions. BQ, an answer. Was it a state actor? A role group? A terrible accident. This calculated confusion paralyzes decision-making and prevents a unified response. It's a strategy designed to sow chaos without leaving a clear signature. So, the central question hangs in the air. Were these 2 incidents connected? The dock in Venezuela and the missile strike in the Pacific. Officially, the answer is no. U.S. officials state there is no direct evidence linking the 2 events. Analysts caution that it's far too early to draw any conclusions. The world is a complex place, and unrelated crises often happen at the same time. But history whispers a warning in the ears of those who listen. Major escalations rarely arrive fully formed. They don't just appear out of nowhere like a summer storm. They build. They grow from a series of seemingly isolated events. They begin as tests, probes, attempts to find the weak spots in an adversary's armor. One strike is designed to gauge a reaction. How quickly does the target respond? What do they say? Publicly versus privately. Another strike, perhaps thousands of miles away, measures silence. Who doesn't condemn the attack? Which allies remain quiet? It's a complex, deadly chess game played on a global scale. Each move provides data, and somewhere in the quiet, secure rooms where real decisions are made, that data is analyzed. Assessments are formed, and choices are made that will never appear in the headlines, but that can shape the course of history. In the aftermath of these events, what we saw was not overt aggression, but a carefully choreographed display of restraint. There were no emergency summits broadcast on television, no dramatic troop movements shown on the nightly news. Instead, we got statements, carefully crafted words, vetted by lawyers and diplomats. Venezuela demanded clarification. Pacific leaders urged calm and de-escalation. U.S. officials emphasized their commitment to regional defense and stability. But diplomatic restraint doesn't mean the crisis is resolved. It doesn't mean the tension has disappeared. It means the game has simply moved back into the shadows. The pressure is still being applied, but now it's through back channels, intelligence networks, and economic levers. Restraint is often just a pause, a moment for each side to reassess the board before making their next move. The silence that follows an incident can be more unnerving than the explosion itself, because it's in that silence that the next phase of the conflict is planned. Now, you might be thinking, this is all happening thousands of miles away. A dock in South America, a missile in the Pacific. Why should this worry me? It should worry you because this is how instability spreads in the 21st century. It doesn't always start with a full-scale invasion. It starts with uncertainty. It starts with a disrupted supply chain that makes goods more expensive. It starts with rising fuel costs, because a key shipping lane is suddenly deemed a risk. These gray zone incidents create a ripple effect. Regional tensions rise, alliances are tested, and with every probe and counterprobe, the chances of a miscalculation multiply. One side misinterprets a signal. A defensive action is mistaken for an offensive one. A limited strike accidentally hits a more sensitive target than intended. And that is when the most dangerous question of all emerges. What happens when one side finally misreads the signal and decides that the quiet game is over? What happens when they answer a soft knock at the door with a battering ram? A doc burned, 2 lives ended. And for the most part, the world moved on. But history doesn't always announce its arrival with trumpets and fanfare. Sometimes it knocks once very softly and then waits in the shadows to see who answers the door. Thanks for watching Silent Conflict. If you want more dark, factual geopolitical breakdowns where the silence matters as much as the explosion make, sure to subscribe, stay informed, and stay safe.